people ask us all sorts of questions.
Okay.
And you're going to help me answer some of their questions in a segment we call We Get Questions. You
Yay.
So here we go.
All right, Tim, I'm ready.
You're a volunteer.
Yep.
You've got your name tag on.
Yes.
Okay, here we go. Next week,
Okay.
we'll be doing a split stay between downtown Napa and Healdsburg. I'm looking for recommendations on a winery to stop at on our drive to Healdsburg. We're thinking of visiting a tasting room and having lunch in downtown Sonoma,
Okay.
but we're open to all suggestions.
Well, first I'd tell them to not stay in Napa and to stay in Sonoma instead. That'd be my first tip.
You're hired.
But in terms of tasting rooms between here and Healdsburg, one of my favorites, it's kind of like picking a favorite child. So
That's very hard.
Favorites.
They're not listening.
Okay.
I know it was me, Mom. I know it was me.
Coursey Graves Winery.
Okay,
So they have two tasting experiences. They do have a tasting room up in Healdsburg, but they also have an estate tasting experience off of Bennett Valley Road, which is kind of on the way from here to Healdsburg. And you can tour their wine caves, and it's got a beautiful garden. And they have got a wine and food pairing, like a wine and cheese pairing.
Okay.
And so
it's a good one. Good Pinot Noir, Bennett Valley. And you're absolutely right. Sometimes I drive to work that way, and I love it. It's a beautiful drive. It's all oak trees and vineyards and lavender fields, and it's quite lovely. So that's a good one. Good job.
Thank you.
Okay, you passed that one without a problem.
All right.
Ready?
I'm ready.
This one's going to be hard for you.
Okay. Oh, no.
Does anyone have any favorite bakeries and places to get cheese? I like going to farmers markets, but would love to know of a good local place I can always go to. So I don't think it's bakeries that have the cheese. I think there's two different questions here.
Okay.
Favorite bakeries and places to get cheese. But not, one doesn't follow, like it's not dependent upon.
So this is where, because I know that on this podcast you've talked about lovely businesses in Sonoma that produce both of those things.
Right.
But since you mentioned I'm from Petaluma.
Beyond Sonoma, yes.
So bakeries, we have several really good ones.
You do.
So there's 3 in downtown Petaluma that I love.
Okay.
It's like, again, favorite child. But Stellina Pronto, which is a newer Italian bakery. We've got Della Fattoria, amazing bread.
Right.
When I was pregnant with my second child, I ate an entire loaf in a day because it was all I could stomach.
Just over there in the corner.
They have like a Meyer lemon bread. So
yes,
good.
That's so good.
That's
very good. It's a good loaf, yeah.
And then just recently, we have our own Cousteau Bakery, which is a French bakery in Healdsburg, but then they've got other locations.
You let Will Seppi into town? Okay.
We did.
Okay.
But then next to Cousteau, this new Cousteau Bakery in downtown Petaluma, Barber Cellars, which is a winemaker, has now also turned into the Petaluma Cheese Shop.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Yeah.
So like a classic cheesemonger, like all sorts of cheeses. So it sounds like a good one-stop shop.
Yes.
Downtown Petaluma. Is this around Kentucky Avenue? Or?
It is in Kentucky and East Washington is where Cousteau and Barber Cellars is. And yeah, so they're all downtown. Again,
that's just over the hill from Sonoma. You head as if you're going to go towards Bodega Bay, and you hit Petaluma or Chickaluma.
Yes.
It's a lovely spot. Okay, good. So far, you're doing pretty good. You're doing a good job.
All right.
This is a question we got from someone. Are you ready?
No.
You keep trying to hand me booklets and information when I walk by here. Are you guys Jehovah's Witnesses?
Wow.
One of my volunteers was trying to hand out some stuff, and this woman kept dodging stuff. And finally she came back and said, "Are you guys Jehovah's Witnesses?"
Okay, for those of you that have not been to visit Tim in downtown Sonoma, he has a cart as part of his visitors center. And so what's awesome about that is that his staff and volunteers can catch people who think that they may not need help. They don't want to ask for help. It's kind of like, people who don't like to ask for directions. Exactly. They don't want to ask for help because they have their phones.
Correct.
But he's got really knowledgeable staff and volunteers that can give their recommendations that you might not find on Google.
Right.
So he's got this cart parked outside. You can go in to the visitor center.
You can go right in if you want.
But you can also just stop at the cart outside.
Right.
And it's a great way to get information without having to traverse the steps of your Carnegie Library.
But thank you. That's a great answer. Thank you. And I don't know. It's possible some of the staff are Jehovah's Witnesses. I've never asked. But I do want to point out that Jehovah's Witnesses are often half a block to our north. And they set up there on the corner. So we are not, as far as I know, Jehovah's Witnesses, but we hand out information.
And you can direct people to the Jehovah's Witnesses.
But we could direct you if we needed to. And good job. You handled that so well.
Thank you.
You're right. Yeah, and the cart or the Mobile Visitor Information Activation Center for grants purposes only.
Okay, got it.
It's right there. Okay, you're doing 3 for 3. You're great. Final question.
All right. Okay, here we go.
I have purchased a number of bottles of olive oil from Green String Farm over the years.
Yeah.
But suddenly they've closed.
Yes.
And I'm jonesing for a fix of olive oil. They really wrote jonesing.
Oh.
Who has found an acceptable and locally sourced alternative for olive oil?
Oh, there's... Wow.
You're like, which one do I say?
That's kind of where I'm at right now.
You can ask for help.
Well, there are several. So, Tim, which one's your favorite?
Well, I'll tell you. I have
not your
many
favorite.
favorites.
Which one is the one you're thinking about right now, off the top of your head?
There is a place called the Olive Press located at Jacuzzi Winery just south of the town of Sonoma. And that's a good spot to get olive oil. They sell olive oil there, and they also press it, and they do a community press day. So you can bring olives and see that. And olive oil, we had it on previous podcasts. We had McAvoy Ranch. Oh, we'll talk about them. We had other people.
That was where I was going, but
other people. But they talk about the need for fresh olive oil. You don't want bad olive oil, because when you taste bad olive oil, it's awful. And then when you actually have tasted really good olive oil, you can't go back to the dreck, right? So I appreciate this person's problem. And we should mention Green String Farm was between Petaluma and Sonoma.
It was.
I guess it's still there.
It's still there. It's just not open.
But they would sell stuff there. But you mentioned in Petaluma. What's the other place that we just talked about?
And I always say it wrong. That's part of my problem.
That's why I'm having you say it.
Oh.
Because I didn't want to say your last name either.
McAvoy Ranch?
McAvoy Ranch, yeah.
And they're an excellent olive oil farm, and you can buy an appointment. You can go over there and do olive oil tasting. And
right.
They also, a lot of times, will do other types of classes, like, seasonally, like a wreath making class, while you also enjoy wine and olive oil. And
they have a big, they also make wine out there.
They do.
They have you call it a farm or a ranch? I never went an orchard. I don't know what you call it.
In Petaluma, you'd call it a ranch, I suppose.
Ranch. Okay.
But it's becoming, it's about to be harvest season for olives.
Right.
So.
It's funny, the two crops that get harvested later in Sonoma County, other than, of course, the citrus, but cannabis and olives happen after grapes usually. And they're both green.
This is true.
There's your story. But yeah, McAvoy Ranch, they're going to start harvesting them there. And I had them on the podcast earlier, and it was really interesting to talk about how to smell olive oil and how to taste it. And you can get flavored olive oils, but that's not the way to do it. The cheap stuff is they add the flavors, kind of like at Starbucks they add pumpkin spice. Right. It's
very controversial.
Very controversial. But what they explained to me is the way they do it is they smash the olives with the flavoring inside of it already. So the lemons are there or the garlic's there. So it's not like an addition later. It's fresh. It's part of it. So it has a better taste to it. So you're hired. You should be out at the cart handing out stuff, chasing people down.
I'd love to be out at the cart.